When politics fails, war ensues. No, I used to think that once too. No. When war ensues, that's politics at work. Working perfectly. When goods stop crossing borders, soldiers will. How do you decrease the need for goods to cross borders? Decrease the population. By sending them across borders. Now, does that make more sense to you? When we're looked at as nothing more than a commodity to carry an economy on?
Hit it, Jim. All right. Jimmy Torres live, ladies and
Hey,
gentlemen.
we have our special guest, Scott Ritter is here. He's a one-time Marine intelligence officer who served in the former Soviet Union implementing arms control agreements. And from 91 to 98, he served as the chief inspector for the United States in Iraq, leading the search for Iraqi weapons of mass destruction. He was later a vocal critic of the American decision.
There's a bit to be said for naval intelligence. His intelligence is hard to find. Everyone thinks they know shit and they're just repeating somebody else's shit. They don't know how to use a critical mind.
And go to war in Iraq. He's also a best-selling author of 9 books, including the latest, Highway to Hell, The Armageddon Chronicles, from 2015 to 2024. Please welcome back to the show, Scott Ritter. Hey, Scott.
Hey, Jimmy, how are you?
Good. I want to get your... so they've closed the Strait of Hormuz. It's happened. And I just want to show you this quick video and get your reaction.
If Iran blocks the Strait of Hormuz, what impact will it have on the entire world, and which country will be affected the most? First, let's understand what the Strait of Hormuz actually is. It is a small area of just 33 kilometers, located between Iran, Oman, and the UAE. It is a narrow sea passage through which almost 20% of the world's oil supply flows, nearly 17 million barrels every day. This oil...
It's a bottleneck. Like I said, when goods stop crossing borders, soldiers will. We'll go back to that in a second. You decrease the population that needs those goods by sending them across borders to kill one another. The world isn't overpopulated. Not at all. It's just that some people are greedy and most people aren't. Us pesky eaters, us pesky not greedy people, we're using up too much of the oil and the resources in the world according to those who waste it, sending us to kill one another. Wake up, fucking idiots, wake up. Don't look up, whatever you do. Well, something biblical is going to happen tonight. About time you started to look up, I reckon.
Oil comes from 8 countries located in the Persian Gulf, including Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. For the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Qatar, 90% of their oil exports pass through this narrow route to reach the rest of the world. If Iran blocks the Strait of Hormuz, following countries will suffer the most damage. First is India, because it imports 85% of its oil, and 60% of that comes from Middle Eastern countries like Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and the UAE. Fuel prices in India would skyrocket, and as a result, everything related to oil and all industries would face severe disruption. Industries could shut down, there would be job losses, and the economy would be severely affected. The second most affected country would be China. China is the world's largest oil importer, bringing in 10 million barrels of oil every day. 40% of China's oil imports pass through this Strait of Hormuz. Although China has built oil pipelines with Russia and Central Asia, they don't even fulfill 20% of its energy needs. So, if the Strait of Hormuz is blocked, China's economy could suffer a massive blow, and if China's economy is shaken, its effects will be felt all over the world. The third most affected country would be Japan, as it imports 90% of its oil, and 75% of that passes through the Strait of Hormuz. The fourth most affected country would be Saudi Arabia. 80 to 90% of Saudi Arabia's oil goes to the rest of the world through Strait of Hormuz, while only 10% goes to Europe via its Red Sea coastline. So if this choke point is blocked, Saudi Arabia's economy would be heavily impacted. Imagine that a country suddenly loses 80 to 90% of its revenue. What would happen to it? Something similar could happen to Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia has the 99-year lease contracts that Paul Keating sold. They have all the refinery and drilling rights to Australian petroleum basins. That's why China won't attack Australia. China will protect their investments. Because what Saudi Arabia don't have, China and South Africa do. South Africa, where does South Africa come into this? South Africa is MMG. They own most of the world's mining industry. Saudi Arabia is oil, and China is goods and services. China owns a lot of our services in 99-year lease agreements. That's major economic structure. What does United States have? Us by the balls militarily because of Pine Gap. We've got to get rid of Pine Gap. We're better off to enter into the BRICS nations because that's also what all those countries have in common. They're BRICS nations. BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and many others now. Many others, including the United Arab Emirates, which is basically the Arab nations. What we are witnessing is America being the dying animal in the corner that's fighting as the most ferociously and viciously that it ever has because it knows it's about to die. You cornered a wounded beast and you watch it go. America's fucked. They're done. Smartest thing we can do is decouple from that. Otherwise they're going to drag us down with them. And China's open to trade in anything. Doesn't have to be the digital yuan. They're happy to trade in anything. They love coal. They love coal. They love iron ore. They love uranium. We have 31% of the world's uranium. Perhaps we would be smarter to trade in uranium with China. And we control our uranium and we get the royalties. Yes, we deport the problems. But we cannot go poking the Arab nations in the eye with a sharp stick. Otherwise we end up being the next Ukraine, the next Iran, the next Palestine. We end up being the proxy war zone. Yeah, it takes a bit of intelligence to figure that out. I've been pointing it out to you for the longest time. What do you think Marinus is all about? What do you think Larry Ellison's all about? Setting up all the China security shit first. He's done a dodgy on China. He's pulled a Swifty on them. He went from China to Iran, to Israel, Jerusalem, setting up the same data centres all linked up through Elon Musk's internet satellites, Skynet, if you want to call it that. Starlink, that's what it's called. I was trying to remember the name of it. Starlink. Well, it's exactly the same database that's been built underneath the ballroom of the White House. The receipts match up. The same costing, the same contractors. Benjamin Netanyahu has been hanging around at Epstein's Island and holidaying on Larry Ellison's island and on his yacht in the Caribbean. You need to put the actual facts together that matter, not what the talking heads tell you. Talking heads don't know. They know what they're told to tell you, and that's it. And some of them know the full story. And they'll burn in hell for that.
There's also a high chance that Saudi Arabia
Oh.
might send in its military to reopen the route, and that
What do you think China? What do you think China was doing circumnavigating Australia? If you think that they don't have things already set up ready to go to protect their assets, you're a fool. Get Pine Gap and American bases out of this fucking country. What do you think they've got? What do you think they've got bases in Japan? They dropped bombs on Japan, destroyed it, got them under the thumb, and set up bases there, and never left. So that they have, so that they can surround China. Why do you, fuck me? Why do you think the Australian government want us to trade with Japan and to get rid of China? They want to do it from America. Look what America's doing. They're blowing up school kids. Israel are blowing up school kids, for crying out loud. I bawled my eyes out over that last night. Because it's fucking evil. He's a sadistic tyrant. Lee, do the right thing. Please. Lee Hansen, do the right thing. I'm not stupid. I think you can tell. I know geopolitical strategy. Economic strategy. I know how it works.
could make the situation even worse. Fifth is Pakistan, which gets about 90% of its oil through the Strait of Hormuz. This oil meets around 20%
nuclear country.
of the country's energy needs. So if the route is blocked, prices in Pakistan could rise sharply. But there's an interesting twist. Since Pakistan shares a border with Iran, and several government reports suggest that 35% of Pakistan's diesel comes unofficially from Iran. So if the strait is blocked, Pakistan might turn to Iran for oil, either quietly or through an official deal. Next in line is the UAE, because as nearly as 72% of its oil exports rely on this Strait of Hormuz, the country does have a backup option, the Habshan Fujairah pipeline, which allows it to bypass the strait and export up to 60% of its oil. But for a major economy like the UAE, losing the remaining 40% would still be a serious blow. Next comes the European countries like France, Germany and Italy, which on average get 10% of their oil through the Strait of Hormuz. A blockade here would hit them hard as well. Globally, experts warn that oil prices could soar past $150 a barrel, causing widespread inflation and possibly triggering a major global recession. So this small 33-kilometre area holds enough power to shake the entire world.
So they did just that. 20 million barrels of oil passed through the Strait of Hormuz yesterday. Today the number may be zero, not because Iran mined the water, not because a tanker was hit, but because Lloyd's of London picked up the phone. War risk underwriters began canceling policies for strait transits or hours after Operation Epic Fury launched. The financial...
Now do you understand what Marinus is about? Now this picture will make a lot more sense to you. Japan, China, the 10 beasts, the 10 horned beast, which is mentioned in Revelation. America has got bases all over Japan. Why? So they can attack China. Because the Strait of Hormuz. China gets... It's bottlenecks. It's all bottlenecked. And why do you think they can't come around that way? Has anybody ever asked that question logically? Like really, critically? Ask a logical reason why. Turn that into a globe. That is right next to there. Why can't they do it? Why do they need the Strait of Hormuz if it's a globe? I'm not into the argument of whether what shape the planet is. I'm really not. But you've got to ask yourself, don't you? Why does America need the Strait of Hormuz to trade with oil and so forth? Why does China need the Strait of Hormuz? Why does Iran, India, Africa, why does everybody need the Strait of Hormuz? If they can just go from here to there straight across an ocean. Nothing is as it seems, people. Nothing is as it seems. Like I said, my grandfather ran intelligence in the Navy in World War II. He taught me to navigate.